This video, we're doing a tier list. This tier list is going to be awesome. We'll be talking about some interesting topics like campus safety, parietals, campus food, dorm system, girl-guy relationships, professors, you name it, we're talking about it. So it's going to be potentially controversial. One thing I want to say is that some students will come up to me and say, hey, thank you for making videos. They helped me choose Notre Dame. And sometimes I respond to them saying, I hope you made the right decision. So this video, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, but I really just want to get down to the nitty gritty of what makes Notre Dame good and bad. 6 tiers. So we have S tier. S tier is what makes Notre Dame the best. What makes Notre Dame special. It's that very, very pinnacle of what's so great about Notre Dame. The A tier is something that makes Notre Dame better. So just overall makes it better. B tier is something that makes Notre Dame a little bit better. C tier is 50-50 toss-up. It's kind of neutral and it depends on the person. D tier is something that makes Notre Dame a little bit worse. And then F tier is something that makes Notre Dame suck. And when I say Notre Dame, I'm talking specifically about the Notre Dame undergraduate experience. So overall, take everything with a grain of salt. This is just my opinion, and let's get after it. Starting off, we have the alumni network. And so, in my opinion, the alumni network is one of the best, if not the best in the entire country. If you message an alumni on LinkedIn or you cold email them, there is maybe a 30 or 40% chance that they'll respond, which I think is very impressive. Notre Dame alumni want to help Notre Dame students, and a lot of people get their internships this way. Therefore, I think this is something that kind of unanimously makes the Notre Dame experience better. So I'm going to put it at the A tier. Next, we have campus dining. So this it could be a little bit controversial. We have 2 dining halls on campus, north and south. They look very different from each other. The food is somewhat similar, even though people may tell you one is better than the other. There are some slight differences. Overall, many students will say that the campus dining is not great, and it is a bit expensive for a dining hall plan. That being said, they do have a lot of options. If you want to eat vegetarian, you can eat vegetarian. If you want to eat rice, broccoli, and chicken, you can eat that. If you want to get spaghetti or something, you can eat that as well. So I don't think it is amazing, and I know other schools have better dining hall food, but I think it's solid, and I overall enjoy eating at the dining hall. And so overall, I would say it's neutral. Some students may say it makes the experience better, some may think it's worse. The next, we're talking about campus eating options that are not the dining hall. So these are things like Chick-fil-A, Starbucks, Garbanzo, and a few other locations. There's about 10 or 12 on campus. And overall, I think that these pretty unanimously makes the Notre Dame experience a bit better. You can use something called flex points to buy at these locations. And a lot of students will go there if they get sick of the dining hall. And overall, it's always nice that we have these options on campus to go with. So I would say this makes the Notre Dame experience a little bit better. Next, we have professors. So that is the GOAT professor, Professor Martin Barron. But besides that, what you should know about professors at Notre Dame is it really depends on the department. Some departments are known better for the professors. From my experience in the business school, Mendoza, Notre Dame undergraduate really prides themselves on professors that can actually teach. I've heard a little bit different in other departments, so maybe the math department has teachers that are a bit more research focused. But at least in my experience in the business school, and generally what I hear is that the professors at Notre Dame are pretty solid, even though you might get a bad apple every once in a while. So I'll put this in the B tier of things that make Notre Dame a bit better. You could argue it could be A tier, but I'll say B tier for now. Next, we have locations to big city. So Notre Dame is maybe about an hour and a half, 2-hour drive away from Chicago. There's a train that goes from the South Bend Airport to Chicago, Millennium Station. But that can kind of be it's easy, but it's also difficult. Overall, that could take between 4 hours to get to the airport, take the train, blah, blah, blah. So I would say Notre Dame's location to a big city is probably C. You could argue D. Some students would obviously want to be closer to a big city, but I think people can go to Chicago on the weekends if they'd like to. And if you fly in Chicago, it's not too hard to get to Notre Dame. Next, we have Notre Dame merchandise. I think Under Armour has done a slightly poor job with Notre Dame merchandise. I think we've had better merchandise in the past. So I'd say it's kind of average right now. That being said, Notre Dame has some of the best throwback merchandise in the entire country of any colleges. You go on Instagram, you can find a lot of vintage resellers. So I would say overall with merchandise, I'll probably put it at C. Kind of depends on the person. Some people really like the new stuff. I'm not such a big fan. Next, we have the campus. And for me, Notre Dame's campus is probably what makes Notre Dame, one of the reasons it makes it so special. So I'm gonna put this in the S tier. The green space, the walkability, the beautiful dorms, the consistency of campus, everything about it really makes me think it's one of, if not the nicest campus on the country. The dome is kind of a centerpiece, and every time I walk by the dome, skate by the dome, I am just blown away by it. Next, we have the creative scene on campus. So Notre Dame isn't known for their arts or video or multimedia. So therefore, I would put this in the D. If you're someone who's really into the arts, Notre Dame is not necessarily the place to go. That being said, if you do come here, you can stand out by doing things that are creative or artistic, because other students, that's not how everyone is wired at this school. Next, we'll go to campus safety. And overall, I've had a great experience with campus police, campus safety. You definitely feel safe on campus. So I'm gonna put this in the B. I think unanimously, pretty much everyone feels safe on campus from my experience. That being said, there may be some students who've had kind of negative experience with the campus police, and maybe they were being a bit rowdy at game days and got in trouble. So overall, I feel safe. Next, we have the art museum. So this is the new art museum on campus. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's a world-class art museum, and I think this is just a little thing. Other people maybe haven't been, but for me, this is a little thing that makes Notre Dame better. Next, we have workout facilities. And so it's hard for me to vote on this one because I don't know what other schools' workout facilities are or other schools of the same size. But if you compare our workout facilities to a state school like University of Wisconsin, our gyms are significantly smaller. For example, our biggest gym has 4 squat racks. So for 8,000 people, 4 squat racks is not great. There's another gym that has 2 or 3 squat racks, and then a lot of the guys' dorms have squat racks in their dorms. So there's definitely more than 4, but considering the nicest state-of-the-art gym only has 4, it's not amazing. That being said, I enjoy it. They're new, and even though they might not have the full length of equipment for lifting, they pretty much cover the broad of what you'd like to do, and they have pretty much everything. They don't have a great amount of quantity of those things. So if you want to do a leg curl, you might be waiting a little bit to someone else to finish. So I will put the gyms in the C tier because it kind of depends what you're looking for. Next, we have outdoor activities in the surrounding area. And for this one, we're going to put D. If you're interested in hiking, you're interested in skiing, you're interested in rafting, you're interested in trail running, Notre Dame is not a good school for that. The location means that the campus is beautiful, but the surrounding 100-mile radius is not exactly known for natural beauty. There are some dunes which are quite pretty, and we are, I think, about 30 or 45 minutes away from Lake Michigan. So that's something to consider, but this is no University of Colorado Boulder. Next, we have the weather. And so I grew up in Wisconsin, so for me, the weather was kind of normal. And honestly, a snowy day at Notre Dame is absolutely gorgeous, and I love it. That being said, it is very gray. The school is quite gray. There's a lot of clouds, and it can get quite rainy. So there's a stretch between, let's say, October to November, and then after break, like January to March, where you'll get a lot of gray, cold days, and it's not the best. My argument against that would be that when you have the contrast between the cold and the gray, it makes the sunny days so much more special. That being said, other students might not agree with that. So I think it makes, in general, the students might not like the weather. I don't think it's too bad, but there's definitely very gray. The next is the Notre Dame logo. I think it's pretty iconic, so I'm going to put it in the B tier. Not too much to say about that. The next category is we have the grotto. So this is a place that you can go to pray or make a wish for someone or make a prayer for someone. It's very peaceful, and I think something like the grotto is kind of what makes Notre Dame special. Even if you are not religious, or anyone is welcome at the grotto, and it's a great place for kind of peaceful reflection. So I'll put this in the B tier. Next, we have student clubs. Notre Dame students are very involved in things. I've been involved in a few different clubs. Most recently, I did the Notre Dame Boxing Club. It's the biggest college-based boxing club tournament in the entire country. Super special, and that's just an example of one of the hundreds of clubs that Notre Dame offers. People, when they look back at their college experience, one of the things they'll think about is the clubs they participated in. And Notre Dame has a great amount of offerings. So I'll put this in the A tier because I think, well, a lot of colleges have amazing offerings. Notre Dame is one of them. The next, we have faith life at Notre Dame. And so this one is controversial potentially just because someone who's maybe watching this might not be religious. And if that's the case, that's okay. I've asked a lot of students if they felt pressured by the faith at Notre Dame. Students that are faithful and students that aren't faithful. They're pressured by Catholicism. And besides the fact that they don't serve like chicken or beef or meat besides fish, the dining halls on Friday during Lent, most students feel as if the faith at Notre Dame and the religious life at Notre Dame is never forced on them, never pressured on them. Instead, it's more of this opportunity for students to embark in, and it's something that you're never pressured to do, but it's kind of an extra thing that if you want to, it's there. And so that's why I think unanimously, whether you're religious or not, you have to think that faith life at Notre Dame is a positive because it can kind of bring people together. So even if you're not religious, if you go to mass, you'll feel the sense of camaraderie and brotherhood or sisterhood if you're in a girls' dorm. And that itself is a special feeling. So I'll put this in the B tier. Some people will probably put this in the A or S tier. I am not super religious myself. So for me, I'll just put it at B because I think overall it's something that makes Notre Dame a bit better. Next, we have student diversity. And so when we're talking about diversity, this is an interesting thing because I don't just mean racial diversity, I mean diversity of thought, diversity of where someone's from, diversity of obviously racial and ethnicity. So there's all different types of diversity. In general, racially, Notre Dame has become more diverse over the past 10 years. As a white man, it's hard for me to kind of comment on this. Overall, it's definitely a smaller subset of students that are non-white, but it's growing. So I think that number is 15 to 25%, but I'll kind of put something right here. I think the most interesting comment I could make is on student diversity of thought. And so Notre Dame attracts a certain type of student. Whether this is self-selected or not, a lot of times they are hardworking, earnest, want to make the world a better place, but also they maybe are more to follow things by the book. I don't know. It attracts a certain type of person. So there's a lot of archetypes that exist around the world that don't exist at Notre Dame. So it definitely is slightly more narrow in that sense compared to maybe going to a state school. One way that Notre Dame's diversity shines is regional diversity around the United States. So Notre Dame has students from every state that go to Notre Dame, and the diversity of East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, West, Southeast, Southwest, it kind of is equal. So that is something that is very special, is that my roommate freshman year was from New Jersey. A lot of the guys in my section are from all around the country, and that's an awesome experience to be able to meet people that kind of had different experiences. Overall, I think diversity at Notre Dame is kind of a toss-up. Some students might say it makes it worse, but in some ways, kind of the narrowness of the student body can potentially be an advantage to building community. So I'm gonna put this in the C tier because I think it depends on what student you're talking to. Next, we have campus study spaces, and I think Notre Dame has absolutely amazing study spaces. Almost every building, there's somewhere to study. So I'm gonna put this in the B tier. So next we have the dorm systems. So the dorm systems are one of the most interesting things about Notre Dame. We have like 31 dorms, half all guys, half all girls, and you have to live in them for 3 years. So this brings a lot of interesting things. Each dorm has a name, a tradition, a mascot. Mine is the Keo Kangaroos. Others, like the one next door, is the O'Neill Angry Mob. Every dorm has kind of their unique traditions, which is super special. You could kind of compare it slightly to Greek life, but also slightly to like the Harry Potter houses. In my opinion, the dorm communities are very inclusive, especially a lot more inclusive than Greek life. You get placed in them randomly, and the friends you make are the people that are around you. That is a very special experience, and the experience to meet these people, to build community, to go to these events, and to have pride in the dorm you're in is something that's extremely special. Obviously, this poses some challenges. Specifically, it changes the dynamic of girl and guy relationships just because it's all guys and all girls. So that is kind of arguable whether it's good, bad, or what that means for it. But overall, Notre Dame is Notre Dame because of the dorm system. You can't explain the Notre Dame experience without explaining the dorm system. And I think in general, for the people that go to Notre Dame, most of them are excited about the dorm experience. My friends at University of Wisconsin might not have liked coming to Notre Dame just because the dorm system is the way it is. But for a lot of students that come to Notre Dame, they're excited about it. And therefore, I think this is something that undoubtedly makes the Notre Dame experience better. And this is coming from someone who didn't build the friend group per se that I maybe would have expected coming into college. Next, we have dorm quality. So this really depends on which dorm you're placed in. My dorm was built in 1996 and is nice. It's not as nice as my friends at other schools, but it is pretty solid. Some dorms are built in 1930 and don't have air conditioning, while some were built in 2024 and are brand new. So there's kind of a wide spectrum of dorm opinions. In general, I don't think the dorms at Notre Dame are as nice as other schools, and you are paying a lot of money to live in there. So in general, I think the quality of living on campus is slightly below what students may get at other comparable schools. So I'm gonna put the dorm quality at D. Yeah, I'll put it at D. Next, we have student friendliness. So how friendly are Notre Dame students? In general, if you introduce yourself to a student, ask where someone's from, how their day's going, they will be more than happy to talk with you. You never get the sense that there's like super clickiness or super arrogance or super kind of social stratosphere. In general, students are very nice. They want to talk, even though that they might be somewhat like kind of in their own world, focused on their own things. If in the dining hall you say hi to someone that you never met before, I'm sure they're gonna say hi back. So in general, I'll put student friendliness in the B tiers. I think it makes Notre Dame a bit better. Next, we have the dating scene at Notre Dame. So this is quite interesting. In general, the dating scene at Notre Dame, I think, is kind of neutral. I know a lot of people that are quite dry, that didn't get into relationships, where I know have other friends that got into really strong relationships at Notre Dame. And so I don't think there's anything inherently that makes Notre Dame a great place for relationships. And maybe there are a few things that make it a little bit below average, but there are a lot of amazing people. Notre Dame is a great funnel to meet amazing people. And so I think I would put this in the C tier, in that it kind of depends on who you ask. So next we have parietals. And what are parietals? And this is kind of one of the most talked about things at Notre Dame, or one of the things that most students have problems with. And it's the idea that someone of the opposite sex cannot be in your dorm after a certain time. So for the weekdays, it's 12, the weekends, it's 2. And there are certain places in the dorm that you can hang out in. There's a 24-hour lounge, but they're not supposed to be in the living space after that time. So this is a very controversial thing. The university says that it's to build community and to make sure that, you know, the people that are there after a certain time are people that live in that community. But it poses some interesting questions about kind of what are the real motivations or the real reason why it started, but that doesn't matter. How does it affect the Notre Dame experience? It depends on which if you're a guy or a girl. The girls' dorms, RAs, take it more seriously from my experience, where the guys' dorms, RAs, it depends on who your RA is, but it seems like there's a slight difference in how the rules are enforced based on there. I think parietals are a neutral thing. You can maybe say that there's a slightly negative thing. I'll say they're neutral because I think there are some truth about making sure that the people in your dorm after a certain time are like the people that are in your dorm, but also it seems kind of unnecessary in my opinion. And I think the fact that they exist means that there will always be a discrepancy in how they're enforced. That'll be a controversial one, but I'll put this one at neutral, maybe negative. Next, we have platonic guy-girl relationships at Notre Dame. And so this was one I feel pretty strongly about. And I think for all of the beautiful things about the single-sex dorms, it means that organic guy-girl relationships can be a little bit more difficult. And some of my best friends at Notre Dame are girls. So it doesn't mean that you can't build guy-girl relationships. But what often ends up happening is that you have guy groups and a girl group, and they'll become friends, and so there's a big friend group, a guy and a girl group. But it's less spontaneous of like a guy here being best friends. Some of the guys in my dorm, I asked them like, do you have a girl that's a close friend? And a decent amount of them said no. I think that is kind of based, maybe there's other reasons, but I think part of that is the way the dorm system is built based on. So I think that I'll put this in D. It's kind of a trade-off that you have at Notre Dame, but I think in general the guy-girl friendships are a little bit harder to build, but not impossible, and just a little bit harder, I would say. Next, we have class size. So the graduating classes at Notre Dame are around 2,000. And for me, this is a great size. It's not too small where it feels like a high school, but it's not too big where you don't recognize anyone or you don't know people. It's kind of this nice medium of you can always meet new people, but it's like there's a camaraderie within the class. So I think in general, this is a B. It's something that makes the Notre Dame experience a bit better. Next, we have the student centers. It's hard for me to compare because I haven't been to other student centers. I think they're solid at Notre Dame. We have two, La Fun and the Duncan Student Center. They have rock climbing, rock wall, gyms, food options, places to study. Pretty solid, but I'm gonna put this as C. I think they're good. I don't know how great they are, but I think they're solid. Next, we have football games. And so football is something that brings alumni and students all together. And so in that sense, it creates this camaraderie and reason for people to come to Notre Dame. And that in itself creates this energy, bravado, and kind of interest in the school. And it's exciting to have a reason to come back to Notre Dame once you graduate, or have a reason to your parents to come, or have a reason to meet an alumni. So in that sense, football is awesome. As coming from someone who actually is not the hugest fan of game days, I find that game days are a very interesting experience, and even if you don't love them, you can find reasons to love them in meeting new people, walking around, experiencing the energy of the stadium. So some people might think that football is one of the most important things about the Notre Dame undergraduate experience, and I think that while that is the case, there is probably still 10 to 20% of the student population that doesn't even get tickets to the game. So if there's that amount of students that don't get tickets, that means that there are some students that don't think the football experience makes Notre Dame better. But in general, I think the fact that it brings energy, liveliness, and alumni back to the campus, as well it brings kind of a tenor and increases our national reputation. I think I'll put Notre Dame football into something that makes Notre Dame a bit better. Next, we have Notre Dame dorm events. So when I was coming to Notre Dame, I heard about these Notre Dame dorm events. There are things like Keen Review, Fisher Regatta. For my dorm, we have a chariot race. So every dorm has a signature event that they do like once a year. So that means that there are about 30 different signature events around campus. And so almost every week there's almost something happening that is built around one of the dorms, and it creates these kind of special opportunities to engage with the dorms and all these fun different events. I think it is kind of one of the reasons why the dorm system is so special, and that people take pride in their events and their kind of uniqueness of what they built as a dorm. And I think that it gives each individual student an opportunity to engage in these events. So going to the Keenan Review, going to the Fisher Regatta can be some of the most fun things you do in a week time, and something that I think makes Notre Dame very special. So therefore I'm gonna put this in the A tier. So next we have South Bend as a city and the surrounding area. And in my opinion, South Bend is underrated. And you might be saying, Drew, is South Bend kind of has a bad reputation? And I think it's underrated because people kind of look so poorly on it. South Bend as a city has a lot of what you could ever look for in terms of amenities. It has places to eat, it has bars to go to, it has a river to walk on, it has a museum to go to, it has hotels, it has all these things that you could really just want in a city. Obviously, it's no Chicago or New York, but I think that is part of one of the reasons why it makes Notre Dame's on-campus community so special, and that there isn't this kind of hierarchy of people going off campus, going to clubs, going to bars in Chicago. It's on campus and then kind of some of the stuff that's happening in South Bend, and it kind of creates this closed community which does a good job at fostering a strong kind of sense of campus and sense of camaraderie. So overall, I think South Bend is underrated. It has some awesome things and it's continuing to get better over time. So I'll put South Bend in the C territory, as it kind of depends on your opinion on this. Next, we have the campus green space. And so this is undoubtedly an A tier. It's one of the best things about Notre Dame. We have so much green space. We can play Frisbee, you can go running on it, you can play sports on it, you can do homework on it. In the springtime, people just hanging out on the quads is one of the best things. There's this great energy to this, great liveliness to it, and it undoubtedly makes Notre Dame a better school, and I'm so happy to be at a school that has such amazing green space and such amazing grass. Next, we have the bars at Notre Dame. And so, in all honesty, there's probably between 2 to 4 bars that people go to. Maybe there's like a freshman bar that kind of changes year by year. Sometimes the bars get rated, so that one usually changes. But there's like Noof's, Ulf's, CJ's, then there's like Corby's and some other ones. But those 3 that I mentioned first are the ones that people go to on the weekend. And they all are a bit different. And they're good or bad. They're not amazing. I think they're solid. I'm not a huge bar person myself, but I can always enjoy going there from time to time. So I'll probably put this in the C tier. Some people really like the bar scene, but other people are kind of more disengaged or not really too impressed by it. Next, we have love for Notre Dame. And when I was coming to Notre Dame, I didn't know what school to decide. But one of the deciding factors was when I was talking with people, it was this sense and excitement and just kind of this overall passion for the school that I didn't really feel anywhere else. And I think this is one of the reasons what makes Notre Dame so special, is that people buy into the mission. They buy into what it means to be a Notre Dame student, to be an alumni, and to be within this community. And I can't explain what it is. I can't really articulate what it is, but you'll have an experience while an undergraduate here that will make you understand why it's so special. And it's different for everyone. But once that happens, and once you go through these 4 years, most people graduate super excited and passionate about the school. And while that can be a bit annoying time for people that don't go to Notre Dame, it's really exciting to see for people that graduated 20 years ago that they still care so much about the school. So therefore, I'm gonna put this in the S tier, because I think it is one of the things that makes Notre Dame so freaking special. And next, we have the party scene at Notre Dame. In my opinion, there's 3 things. There's dorm parties, which have gotten less popular, it seems like, in the past 2 years. You have off-campus parties, and then you have bars. So in terms of the party scene, for academic schools, Notre Dame has probably one of the best party scenes. For schools in general, I think Notre Dame is probably about average. There's a work hard, play hard type vibe to Notre Dame. Don't come here for the best party school, But come here for a school that you can really grind in academics, and then on the weekends there's opportunities to have fun, whether that is go to a party, go to a bar. There is solid opportunities all around. So I think I'll put this in the B tier because I think that you have to give Notre Dame its flowers for being an academic school that still has fun. And then lastly, we have the boost that comes from telling people you go to Notre Dame, or just the reputation of Notre Dame overall. And I think that after a while, you kind of just get used to it, but it definitely is always kind of interesting to tell people, and you get different reactions. But for some people, it can be very positive, other people more neutral. But obviously, that is one of the reasons why people decide to come to a school like Notre Dame, is because the reputations for employers and other things is helpful and advantageous. So I'll put this in the B tier because I think it is an overall benefit. We're done with the tier list. Hopefully I didn't yap too much. Hopefully this helped. Notice one thing, there's nothing in the F tier. And why is this? This is because that no matter what happens at Notre Dame, no matter what challenges you go through, no matter whether the weather's bad, whether the surrounding city doesn't have the bars you want to, whether the parties aren't good enough, that doesn't matter. What does matter is that you take it into your own hands to make the best college experience possible. You take it in your own hands to meet the most amount of people, to go to the most amount of club meetings, to do the things that matter to you, to create the blueprint to have a great experience. And I can tell you this, that your Notre Dame college experience will be amazing if you do those things. Nothing will make it suck. Just focus, lock in, and this will be a great experience. So that's why there's nothing in the F tier, because Notre Dame is the way it is because it is the way it is. So awesome. Thank you. And hopefully this was okay video. Peace.